So in today's lesson, we're going to talk about scientific notation. You guys have used scientific notation in science. You guys have probably been using this since at least the 4th or 5th grade probably. And all scientific notation is simply just taking an extremely large number. So something like 3,485,000 whatever. Let's just say it's milliliters let's calculate something in science. And turn that into just a small number. That's all we're trying to do is just take a very large number and turn it into a small number. So you guys have obviously seen this in Mrs. Wells' class. You guys have probably seen it in middle school and on and on and on. So all we're going to do simply learn today is to simply take a large number like this and turn it into scientific notation. And that's all we're going to learn about today. So let's take a look at an example here. We're going to try to take 41,650,000 and turn it into a scientific notation. Now, if you remember correctly from when you guys have done it in science class or whether you guys have done it in elementary or middle school, the scientific notation is going to look like something times 10 to the something power. So here's what we're looking for. So we're looking for some number times 10 to some power. So in this case, we have 41,650,000. The very first thing we're going to be able to do is just go ahead and put our decimal in between the first number and the second number. And so that's going to be our number down here. So we're going to get 4.165 times 10 to some power now. Now, if you remember correctly from whenever you guys have done decimals in the past, is that our decimal always is out here at the far right. So now we're going to see how many places that decimal has to go from here to here. So we're just going to count our places here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 41,650,000 is 4.165 times 10 to the 7th power in scientific notation. Now, if we want to turn around and take that same number now and actually go the opposite direction. So let's take our 4.165 here. And let's actually go back the opposite direction. Let's go the opposite direction and see what kind of happens here. We're actually going to get a negative number. So if we let's go 7 places, for example. So we're going to take 4.165, and we're going to move it back, so let's say 7 directions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our decimal's going to be here now. We'll just fill in these little bumps here with zeros. And so what we get is 0.000004165 is actually 4.165 times 10 to the negative 7th is actually how you would write that out. So remember, anytime we take our decimal to the left, it's going to be a negative power. Anytime we take our decimal to the right, it'll be a positive power. So let's take a look at example 1 here. Example 1 asks us to write 0.000316 in the scientific notation. So we know the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and put our decimal in between our first and last number, or first and second number, excuse me. So we get 3.16 times 10 to some power. Now, in order to get from 3.16 to 0.00316, we have to go how many places? So let's just count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know we got to go 4 places. Now keep in mind, like I just told you though, since we're going from here to here and we actually had to go to the left 4 places, this is going to be a negative number. So our final answer is going to be 3.16 times 10 to the negative 4th power. So in example 2, it asks us to write 0.00316 times 10 to the negative 7th power in scientific notation. And the first thing you're going to ask me is, well, Mr. Barber, this is already in scientific notation. Why do I need to rewrite it in scientific notation? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to actually simplify this a little bit and turn it into scientific notation again. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 0.000316 and turn it to scientific notation. And just like we did in the previous example, it's the same problem. So we're going to get 3.16 times 10 to the negative 4th power. Because remember, we went 1, 2, 3, we went over 4 places. And then we're just going to add on this times 10 to the negative 7th power. Now that we've got this, again, just like we've done in the past with our like terms, we see we have a 10 to the negative 4th times a 10 to the negative 7th. What do we do when we have exponents, we multiply exponents, we're going to add them together. So we get 3.16 times 10. We add our exponents, negative 4 plus a negative 7 is a negative 11. And we get a final answer of 3.16 times 10 to the negative 11th power. So for our final example, we're asked to write 0.000316 times 10 to the 7th power into scientific notation. Once again, you're asking yourself, well, self, what am I doing here? Why am I having to rewrite this in scientific notation? So once again, we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the previous problem. We're going to take this and go 3.161234, so times 10, take a negative 4th power, bring down our times 10 to the 7th power, and when we add negative 4 and negative 7 together, we're going to get a final answer of 3.16 times 10 to the 3rd power as our final answer. And so now, tomorrow, what I'm going to ask you to do when you come to class is I'm going to have 3 problems that I'm going to have you work on. So when you come to class, we're going to discuss those 3 problems and see if there's any questions you may have before moving on with your homework.